Hello, my name is David Santiana. I'm making this video for Communications 3260 to talk about Emily Bernard's book, Black is the Body, and the chapter Motherland. She opens up with some in media res, where she's laying in bed with her husband on a vacation when all of a sudden they get a phone call confirming that they were going to be parents. This is a little bit misleading because it makes it seem like, yeah, they just woke up one day and got a phone call and now they're parents and it was that easy. But as Emily goes into the backstory and the context behind that phone call, we find out that this was an extremely difficult process to go through, and getting to this point was not easy. Emily deals with kind of the main antagonist of this chapter, who is named Helen, who's kind of a funny character because Helen starts out as this person who is just a little eccentric, but she gets things done, and how that's very helpful in a very bureaucratic system where everything takes a really long time and has a lot of paperwork, and the work that you're doing doesn't seem to be paying off towards your ultimate goal, which is adopting two girls. So they kind of like that Helen is this, she's sort of a bit of a bull in a china shop when it comes to adoption. She just goes in there and starts blindly shooting and hopes that she hits something. She apparently does not pay very much attention to the bureaucratic process, and she tends to be more motivated by the ability to just get kids with American parents and not really care whether she did it the correct way or the legal way. And that when Emily and John are first starting the process, this is invaluable to them. It's a really difficult thing to do to get kids adopted in general from anywhere. And the availability of Helen is really crucial to them. They love the fact that Helen is just motivated by getting people their kids. And this is, although it's unconventional, this is effective. They start this process, and Helen gets the ball rolling. They are starting to grow a little cautious of her because they realize that she's a little bit of a loose cannon. She is making some enemies in the industry, it sounds like. But enemies at the end of the day are still connections, and connections are extremely important. So Helen eventually gets fired from her job. I can't imagine why, but that puts them in a place where they are kind of put in the hands of more professionals that actually know how to go about the process correctly, and how that's kind of a plus, and that's also kind of a drawback, because the professionals, like I said, they do things correctly, but they are also very slow with the process that they do things. And while you can't necessarily trust Helen after she's been fired, at least you know her. She was like crazy, and she was like, her faults were just hanging out there, and she was just, but she was keeping you up to date. The other people that she ends up working with are not as familiar to them, and it's just a difficult process for Emily and John to make that transition to having new agents. Um, then when Emily and John finally go to Ethiopia, they are they give a lot more trust to their new agents because they see that they are just very transparent and they are very realistic. And while that's less appealing because now they have to do lots of paperwork, they have to stay in Ethiopia for months, it sounds like, and wait like maybe a week at a time just to get a passport sorted out. I think I remember. So it's a hard process to go through for them, but it eventually gets done. And this is that's what they need. They need the real world situation laid out in front of them if they want this to happen. Whereas Helen was just this crazy and dramatic, like get things done kind of person. These people are much more realistic. When Emily asks, there's like a error in some of the paperwork. I think the two girls had their names switched on their legal documents, and it was causing an issue. So Emily asks the attendant at the legal office, "Is it a possibility that I won't be able to have my daughters?" And the legal assistant looks up and plainly says, "Yes, that is a possibility." Emily has to mentally prepare herself to say goodbye to the two girls that she had traveled all the way to Africa to pick up. And it's a very sobering moment. Emily, she ends up getting the daughters nonetheless, and it's a great outcome for her. And she talks a lot about the experience of being in the position of being a foreigner who's taking two kids out of their home and bringing them to a foreign place. And race plays a part in that, because the people in Africa say that the white people are stealing their babies, kind of jokingly. But Emily kind of reinforces her position by just saying, like, yeah, that's what we're doing. We are gonna take these kids and give them a family, and whether that's a racial thing or not, that's what they're doing. And Emily is at least confident that she can give her kids a better life in the United States, and she is just overall more optimistic than for the children of other parents, that they're also going to have better lives, and that the opportunity is worth it for those children. So this was a really interesting chapter, I think, to kind of theorize a little bit and connect things. I think that Emily is kind of giving props to doing things by the books rather than doing things like Helen does it, because while Helen has this passion, this fiery passion that gets things going and can, like I said, get the ball rolling, which is really helpful. You ultimately have to be grounded in the legal work that surrounds these children, and that could potentially keep them from going home with you. You are writing a fine line of either being these children's new and legal parents, or you are going to be these children's kidnappers. And that legitimacy, while it doesn't matter on a day-to-day basis as to raising kids, that legitimacy is very important for the peace of mind of Emily, and also just to limit the legal repercussions down the line. Emily needs to do this by the books, and she needs to do this in the legal, bureaucratic, complicated way. I think that there's something, and this could be a little bit of reaching, possibly, but because this chapter was so grounded in just Emily's pure experience and didn't have, I felt like I didn't feel much of like a larger message from reading this chapter. So if I had to extrapolate any kind of deeper theory or messages, I would say that maybe in relation to race, it is important to go about things in a way that takes into account the reality of the fact that we live in a bureaucracy, that any society is going to have legal barriers, and we live in this world that is a mixture of humans which are emotional and sporadic and impulsive, and they make jokes about people stealing babies when that's not the reality. But then we also occupy a world that is dictated by codes, and that is dictated by very real boundaries that aren't like imaginary. They're not hard to grasp, like how people can be hard to grasp. Laws and codes are real things that you can understand and work with and get good results out of. And so that's the thing that I thought was interesting, that maybe Emily was kind of connecting in this chapter, that this is a sobering process of going to Africa and finding your children and doing all the paperwork. You can't just go there and drink the milk that they have and pick up your babies and go home. You're gonna go there, you're gonna adapt to their social customs, you're gonna throw up because the milk that you drink makes you sick, and then you're gonna go and you're gonna listen to people talk about how you're kidnapping their babies, while you are literally spending your entire time making sure that you're not kidnapping your babies. It's an extremely difficult and ugly process that is extremely necessary to do things the right way. And while it is ugly, it is ultimately leading to something beautiful, which is Emily and John having their own children that they can raise how they would like. It kind of reminds me of the quote that she mentioned earlier by James Baldwin, where it says that love is a battle, and that it doesn't start or end the way that you think it does. You end up going a much different trail than you expect to, and the ability to stick to it is what makes the difference. And so it just kind of speaks to the beauty that comes from doing difficult things and going through processes and jumping through those hoops for other people. And I think that possibly that's what she's trying to get at. We'll have to see in the next chapter if she touches on that anymore. I would like to see Helen come up again later in the book, because she is a pretty funny character. I think a really good plot twist would be that Helen kidnaps the kids and this becomes an action novel, and Emily and John have to go and fight Helen and rescue the kids. It's probably not going to happen, but I enjoyed this little break from all the really heavy subject matter, and just hearing about Emily's experience with going to Africa and interacting with interesting people and doing something really difficult for a beautiful outcome. So yeah, thank you.